All right, my name is Bailey Rosenstraw, and I'm joined here today by Keelar Harpham, Nolan Susel, and Joseph Moraga. I just want to talk about the article I researched over the last month or so called The Relationship Between Organizational Culture and Cultural Intelligence. It was written by Agnes Below, Zoltan Gal, and Lejos Zabo. So, first, I wanted to get into organizational culture, kind of what it is and what they studied. So I want to start with a quick quote from the article. We live in one of those great historical periods that occur every 200 or 300 years when people do not understand the world as much as they did, and the past is not sufficient to explain the future. So that basically means that we're in such a different time now that we have to develop our own research, and there's only so much that history can help us. And this mostly has to do with like our technological advances. So now it's kind of like, what is culture? Um, Especially in an organization, it's a fairly new concept. Individual culture is pretty common because each of us have our own backgrounds. We're all from a certain place, and we act a certain way because of it. But it has a huge correlation to the organization as an entirety. Culture is the creation of values in the form of human cohabitation, how people work together in certain environments. Individuals are assisted by culture in their decision making. So culture basically has a huge relevance in personal decisions in the business place, the workplace, and your individual social lives. And then organizational culture can determine the behavior and image of an entire organization. So basically, organizational culture can be split up into four basic categories. They're called the competing values of framework. Um, the first type of category is called a clan. This is more like your family basis, your family structure. The leaders are typically known as mentors rather than dictatorship. And then there's a lot more teamwork and loyalty. It's more open. There's more trust. You have a little bit more freedom, but there's still some guidelines. And then an adocracy is very adventurous. Adventurous. It's very creative. People can kind of do what they need to do and almost whatever they need to do in order to get to the end goal. So it's a very result oriented type structure. A good example for this type of structure is NASA. An example they use in an article is they're literally sending a rocket into the air and doing whatever they can to get it to its destination, no matter the means. Then a market is the next type of structure. It's very efficient. It's fairly common. It's extremely competitive and authoritative, but they're also result oriented, just like an adocracy. And a good example for a market would be GE. And then the final type of structure is a hierarchy. This is extremely structured, extremely formalized. It's predictable and secure, and that's why it's a very safe investment for a business structure, and it's very regulated. A good example for this would be the Ford Motor Company, and that's basically the framework of an organizational culture. So now I kind of want to break down cultural intelligence because this article was about the relationship between the two. So, cultural intelligence captures a person's capability to adapt effectively to new cultural contexts, and it has both process and content features. Cultural intelligence assimilates a person to its external environment and other people's external environment. It's broken down into four different categories. The first one being metacognitive. This is where people are aware of the cultural preferences of others around them, and then they go forward and devote their energy to analyzing those cultural interactions. And then a cognitive type of intelligence is what people know about the norms, values, language rules, religions, and things like that about other individuals' cultures. It's the information they know about culture. The next one is motivational. Motivational intelligence is the ability to take into consideration the culturally different situations and then go ahead and learn from them. So unlike metacognitive, rather than just kind of observing a situation of other cultural interactions, they go ahead and take a step forward from that and learn from them and then act upon them. And that leads me into the behavioral intelligence. Behavioral intelligence is what individuals do rather than what they think or feel. This is what language they speak, to try to assimilate with other people's cultures. Like if you go to Mexico, you start speaking Spanish in certain situations to assimilate with their culture. That's the behavioral type of intelligence. Now, below, Gal and Sabo went through a couple different research methods to describe the relationship between the two. For the first organizational culture method, they used the common Cameron and Quinn model. It's basically a questionnaire that's extremely functional, it's time saving, and it has a good blend of qualitative and quantitative results. It's manageable and it's valid. The Cameron and Quinn model is renowned throughout the research community. And then this questionnaire kind of brings up specific topics like dominant characteristics within the culture. This is a general perception of the culture as a whole. And then it will talk about leadership styles. This is important because it affects the entirety of the organization, who's leading it and how it's being done. And then they could also be, it will also be asking about the work environment, how the employees are treated, and also the bonding mechanisms. What keeps the organization together? Is it just results, or is it the means behind the end results? So these scores, in the end, will reveal which organizational culture is dominant of the four for our respondents or for their respondents, and then they also will indicate the level of congruency among the components. So congruency is basically if one of these four categories I talked about before, if there's two or more of them that have the same dominant organizational culture, there's this positive congruency. And it's pretty important for that because if there's only one cluster for each category that's analyzed, there's not a good congruency, which shows that there's some sort of fault within the research. So in this research, they did find that there were two or more of these with most of the respondents that had the same dominant organizational culture. And then for the experiment they used for cultural intelligence, it was a similar questionnaire. It was a 4-factor, 20-element questionnaire that contained short statements that concern the participants. So they were basically just cultural questions and cultural statements about them or other types of cultures. And then those respondents rated the relevance of those statements to them on a scale of 1 to 7. So they used those two questionnaires to collect data upon the organizational culture and the cultural intelligence. And they found out, or they got a fair amount of data from the different questionnaires they studied. So for organizational culture, we can see that there were a large set of statistics for the clan environment. So that means that their respondents preferred the clan type of organizational structure apart from the Docracy market and hierarchy. Then we can see that Docracy comes in second to clan with a large margin in between. But that kind of shows that because clan and Docracy are both on the north end of that matrix I showed you guys earlier. So that shows that people prefer flexibility and individualism in structure or in organizational structures as opposed to the market and hierarchy. And then we can see for the statistics of components of cultural intelligence that most of the people fell within motivational intelligence and behavioral intelligence. And that kind of makes sense to me because motivational and behavioral, especially behavioral, is purely their actions and what they speak and how they show people compassion for their different religions and things. But then motivational is the process behind their action, right? It's like, what are they gonna do to try to assimilate with a different culture? So that the increased mean in those made sense to me, and that also followed the hypothesis of the article. And then I was though surprised that cognitive was a little bit lower because I figured that people would be able to establish or understand how much they knew about other cultures. They don't have to know a whole lot, but it would just show that they are comfortable with what they know about different cultures. So those are the basic statistics, but the findings from those statistics show that again in the top graph here, we can see that there's a large amount of respondents distributed into the clan structure type. There's a huge margin between that and adocracy. We can see the 900 to the 100. So clan was extremely um, preferenced over the rest of the structures. And then in the graph just below that, this is for the cultural intelligence. So this distribution shows that there's a large mean around 97 to 98 points for the cultural intelligence questionnaire. And this is pretty important because it shows that there's not a lot of people in the small amount of information known for cultural intelligence, and there's not a lot on the other side of the distribution. And then for the right here, we can bring the two together. So since the types of structures are a qualitative factor and then the cultural intelligence is a quantitative factor, this graph kind of gives us a distribution of the two, even though they're not both quantitative. So we can see here for clan and market a pretty average cultural intelligence number from the 90 from like the 86 to 90 era falls within the clan and market side of the graph, and then the extremely high intelligence falls within the adocracy, and then the low intelligence falls within the hierarchy. And this makes a lot of sense and furthers the hypothesis of the study, because at the beginning of the article they spoke upon that the higher a student's cultural intelligence score is, the more they would see the student want a flexible and externally focused culture. Um, this shows that they have more information to work with. They understand a lot more, so they kind of want the freedom to do what they want to do with the intelligence um, or the knowledge that they have. And then on the other side of that, the lower scores, they want a more structured and internally focused culture, and that will fall within the hierarchy. So that graph we just saw previously kind of shows how the mean of the cultural intelligence fall within clan and market structures, and then the highest in adocracy and the lowest in hierarchy. Kind of follows that hypothesis. But ultimately, they found that a majority prefer the clan organization even over the market, even though they're all at the mean scores there on that last graph. And this makes sense to me as well because the clan is a family type culture. They value these family ties and the socialization. They value individuality while they have an internal focus. Um, but they don't set too far on the extremes of both, right? So they're kind of a middle ground that focuses more on flexibility rather than a stable and structured type of organizational culture. So this ultimately is what they found through their research, is that a clan family type environment is more preferred through this undergraduate program, and that's what they found from the respondents. And I felt for me that was pretty similar to my football culture here at Black Hills. Is we really harp on having a family type culture, trying to make sure we respect the individuality of each of the players, and then we grow and have an internal focus on them, and we try to figure out who they are, what's their background, and what's their culture, and we can use that as kind of um, a building point to get to our end result, which would hopefully be championships and wins and things like that. So, Kyler, this is kind of when I want to open it up to you, and maybe we can each talk or however you guys want to do it. But I just want to see what you guys think about this study, or any questions you have, or if you could relate family to your businesses.
Yeah, like you said with football, the clan stuck out for me. I mean, just that whole family aspect of it. But as you were going through it too, the market one stuck out to me for like my job that I've been doing at Elkhorn Ridge at the golf course. I know like we tend to focus on like efficiency and like the results of like each day-to-day task. I know like there would be like points throughout like the day where it'd almost be like a contest kind of between like coworkers, like, oh, like how quickly did you get this done, stuff like that. And then we just wanted to be efficient throughout the work week. So then at peak golfing times, like at the weekends, we'd have like the most we can get done, and then the course looking as best as possible. So then that's where the result oriented kind of came in too, was just making sure that not only are we getting as many tasks done as possible, but we're getting them done in a timely manner and making everything look well. So that really stuck out to me. I can't say with the hierarchy or out of hierarchy or whatever it is, the other one. I haven't really had too much experience with those, but the clan and market, I'd say I've had some firsthand experience with in football and working at the golf course. So
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like clan and market were showed to be the most efficient two of the four structures. And it kind of makes sense, right? Like the market might actually be more efficient. People may just prefer the clan over the market because it's more individually focused. So Nolan, Joe, do you guys have anything to say about that?
Um, yeah, I kind of do. So basically, as you were going through your presentation and stuff like that, I kind of noticed that there was like a real big correlation between, or what I have seen, not that it's like showing through the statistics in your presentation, but that clan and hierarchy kind of mix together when you get into like a larger corporation, especially in California. And the reason I speak on that is because obviously, I have a family business and we do underground construction and whatnot. And I know that you say like in a clan, usually the leaders are known as mentors, because they've been there, done that, and they know a few things, or a trick or two and stuff like that. So, but it also comes down to the hierarchy of things, of knowing who the exact, the top of the board is, and then it goes down from there, and that will probably not change for a while, type of thing. So I've definitely seen like a mix between the two. The reason I say that is because my dad is obviously the owner of the company, and has done probably every job that is imaginable for underground construction, whether it was operating or anything like that. And he's done his own training for his workers now. And so they look at him as more of a mentor, but they know exactly who he is and that he's the boss, and when it comes down to it, he's going to be the guy making major decisions for the company in terms of that, obviously like the more of corporate side of things and stuff like that, where laborers don't really have too much of a say. And but yeah, I thought that those two were kind of like hand in hand in our set of business, and how things kind of go around there. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. So, what it kind of what I picture from that is, so if you look at this matrix on the right, right, there's these kind of diamond shape graphs within the matrix. So if you look at this, I'm kind of just hypothesizing, but like for your business, it could be more, the diamond could come out towards clan and then into the hierarchy, to kind of show that there's more of a hierarchical, um, maybe foundation, right? But there's still that family aspect and the individuality of it. So yeah, the two can definitely be correlated. They're on the same side of the matrix, because there's so much internal focus, right? But yeah, thanks, man. Nolan, do you got anything to say about it?
Yeah, I could add a little bit. Just a quick comparison with the our football team and our football organization. You guys probably understand what I'm speaking about. Just with the difference between the two coaching staffs and how they kind of structure their things. With our previous coaching staff, I believe it was more kind of the culture was a hierarchy kind of thing. Um, I know Coach Bresky, who's our new coach, when he first got here, he said, he didn't want to be the person making all the decisions for our organization. He doesn't he believes that the more input the players have, the more value we bring, just going to make us that much better and closer. With the previous coaching staff, Coach Reiners, I believe he was making all the decisions, especially when it came to like uniforms and like just miscellaneous kind of things, which Coach Bresky has created player communities. Like we have the music committee, we got the people that do our uniforms. There's a countless amount of communities, but I believe that kind of clan or family-based culture really impacted our culture overall. And I just thought I could make that quick comparison between the coaching staffs over the years.
No, definitely. There's there's definitely that huge gap between the last coaching staff and the new coaching staff, and kind of the more individual and internal focus. Well, guys, that's everything I got. I just want to thank you for listening to my presentation and kind of discussing some of these questions with me. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bailey.
Thanks, Bailey.